The rain was falling hard that night, the kind of storm that made the streetlights blur into smears of gold and silver. Inside a small, dented pickup truck, Daniel gripped the wheel, his knuckles pale from years of working with his hands. He was 36, a single father of two young girls, Emma, 12, and Lily, only 8. His wife had passed away 4 years earlier, leaving him with little more than a mountain of bills, 2 fragile hearts to protect, and a strength he didn't even know he possessed. They lived in a tiny rental house on the edge of town. Daniel worked construction during the day, and picked up odd jobs at night, trying desperately to keep food on the table and the lights on. His daughters were his entire world. Every evening, no matter how exhausted he was, he read them bedtime stories. Every morning, he tied their shoes with a tired smile, and packed lunches that were simple, but filled with love. That night, after finishing an overtime shift, Daniel was on his way home. His eyes were heavy, his body sore, but he thought of Emma and Lily waiting for him. He always thought of them. As he drove down the lonely stretch of highway, his headlights caught something unusual in SUV, its front smashed against a guardrail. Smoke curled from the hood, and rain pounded on the shattered windshield. At first, Daniel slowed, unsure. He had so little already, and trouble had a way of finding him. But then, he remembered something his late wife used to say, the measure of who we are, is how we treat those who can't repay us. He pulled over. Through the rain, he saw a woman slumped over the steering wheel. He rushed to her side, yanking open the door. The acrid scent of gasoline filled the air. "Ma'am, can you hear me?" he shouted. The woman stirred, her face pale, a cut streaking across her forehead. She whispered something, her voice weak. Daniel didn't think twice. He unbuckled her, lifted her into his arms, and carried her through the storm to his truck. His daughters gasped when he slid the door open, and laid the injured woman across the back seat. Lily's small voice trembled. "Daddy, is she going to be okay?" "She will," Daniel said firmly, though fear nodded him. The nearest hospital was miles away. He drove as fast as the battered truck would go, tires hissing on the wet road. At one point, the woman opened her eyes, just barely, and whispered, "Thank you." He didn't recognize her, not then. To him, she was just a human being in need. At the hospital, Daniel stayed until the doctors rushed her inside. He filled out no forms, asked for no reward. He only whispered a silent prayer, that she'd make it, then took his daughters home. By morning, he was back at work, carrying bricks and steel, as if nothing had happened. But the woman remembered. Her name was Victoria Hayes. She wasn't just wealthy, she was one of the most successful businesswomen in the state, a self-made millionaire whose face often graced magazines and television. But wealth meant little that night, when her car spun out on the slick road. If not for Daniel, she might not have survived. Days later, Victoria asked the hospital staff about the man who had brought her in. All she had was his name, scribbled on an intake sheet, Daniel Carter. She was relentless, until she found him. She showed up at his doorstep one rainy evening, standing in a sleek black car, dressed simply but elegantly. Daniel opened the door, wiping his hands on his work jeans, confusion in his eyes. Emma and Lily peeked from behind him, curious. "Mr. Carter," Victoria said softly, "I owe you my life." Daniel shifted uncomfortably. "Ma'am, you don't owe me anything." Anyone would have done the same, but Victoria saw something in that little house: the peeling paint, the flickering lamp, the 2 girls with tired but bright eyes. She saw the quiet sacrifices Daniel had been making, invisible to the world. Over the following weeks, she visited often. She brought books for the girls, hot meals for their table, and once even paid their overdue electric bill without a word. Daniel resisted at first, pride swelling in him. But Victoria's kindness was gentle, never boastful. One afternoon, she sat with Emma and Lily, listening to their laughter as they told her stories about their mother. And something inside her shifted. She had built empires, but she had never built a family. Watching Daniel's simple, selfless love for his daughters touched a place in her heart she hadn't known was empty. It wasn't long before she made a decision that would change everything. She offered Daniel a position in her company, not charity, but for recognition. She had seen his work ethic, his leadership, his honesty. She believed he could manage projects, oversee teams, and grow. At first, he hesitated. He was just a construction worker, a single dad. But Victoria looked him in the eyes and said, "You saved my life. Let me help you live yours." Months turned into years. Daniel flourished in his new role, climbing from site manager to director. His daughters thrived in better schools, their laughter no longer shadowed by worry. And Victoria, she became more than just a friend. She became family. The love that grew between them wasn't sudden, it was slow, like the steady warmth of a sunrise. For Daniel, it wasn't her wealth that mattered. It was the way she knelt to tie Lily's shoelaces, the way she encouraged Emma's dream of becoming an artist, the way she looked at him, as if he was enough. One evening, Years after that stormy night, the four of them sat around a dinner table, no longer strangers, no longer broken. Emma raised her glass of apple juice and said with a smile, "To second chances." And in that moment, Daniel realized the truth. Kindness had not just saved Victoria's life, that night it had saved his too. So, if you ever doubt the power of a single act of compassion, remember this. One roadside rescue brought together a grieving father, two hopeful little girls, and a woman who thought she had everything, until she discovered what she truly needed. And sometimes, that's all it takes: one choice, one act of kindness, one moment of courage to change a life forever. If this story touched your heart, remember to subscribe for more stories of hope, kindness, and the